Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, a federal court today temporarily blocks an Arizona law that bans ballot collecting. And we'll talk about all the attention the state is getting in the closing days of the presidential race. Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital Times. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals today put a temporary stop to a new Arizona law that makes it a felony to collect early ballots. This is this ballot harvesting issue, correct?
Correct. But wait, that's not all. So after the Ninth Circuit issued its ruling, I think it was early this afternoon. A couple hours later, along comes the state, and they have gone to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they're saying, we want to stay on this. This is just, it's too late, it's too close to the election, and they are submitting their arguments. Well, they've already made their request to the Supreme Court. We would expect a ruling this weekend.
And this is after a three-judge panel at the Ninth Circuit did reject an attempt to block. I mean, they kind of went one way, the full Ninth Circuit went the other way, and now the state's saying, well, we got to go back that other way.
Correct. It gives new definition to being a swing state, or another dimension to being a swing state.
Well, you have to understand the politics of the Ninth Circuit. I mean, the decision, as you point out, on the three-judge panel was 2-1 to say there's nothing wrong with the state banning ballot harvesting. We do not find racial discrimination, even if there are certain disparities, because they said lots of people have problems getting their ballots back. The dissent on that was Chief Justice Sidney Thomas. Thomas says, well, I'm going to get some folks together, and today got a 6-5 ruling of the 11-judge panel to say, no, we think there are problems with it. Now, remember, this 11-judge panel did not say the law is illegal. They simply said, let's keep the law the way it was, because this law didn't take effect till August. Let's keep it the way it was till we get a full ruling on the merits of the law.
Keep the status quo until we have a better chance to take a look at this, which would be after the election.
After the elections, of course, as Mary Jo had mentioned, the state is now going to the U.S. Supreme Court and saying, well, stop the Ninth Circuit opinion, stopping us from enforcing our ballot harvesting ban. The practical impact, I think, is that between now, whenever Justice Kennedy says up or down on that state appeal, the Democrats and its allied organizations have to go collect all the ballots they can collect and start turning them in, like right away. Not even wait for Sunday or Monday, because we don't know what's going to happen.
But wait a minute, can you turn them in on Saturday?
Well, I'm presuming that some of those polling centers would be open on Saturday. I'm not sure about that.
All those early voting centers closed today at 5.
Yeah. Even the Maricopa County's IMTech Center?
Yes, okay. I checked all the hours.
And so, we're going to be sitting here, look, these are interesting questions. I have 3 ballots here. Now, as the opponents of the law point out, it says, are these family members who are exempt? Are these people in the same household? Or are these strangers? Now, that becomes the problem with enforcement.
Wait. Answer the question. Where'd you get these ballots, by the way? What's this? Some sort of prop here?
I take the Fifth Amendment. No, but these are important questions. This has been the practice in Arizona for years. I mean, not just 3 ballots, but you have groups that go out between the time it's too late to mail it, and they go door to door, and they say, look, do you have your early ballot sitting on your table? Would you like us to take it in for you? There's never been any evidence of fraud. The Republican lawmakers who push this say there's never evidence of fraud, but yet they say it creates the possibility for fraud, and therefore they made it illegal.
Right now, I don't think you have a legal problem, Howie. You can keep those.
As
of right now, I think you're fine. Now, of course, there are other litigations that are going on that may affect the outcome, or somewhat, at least on the margins, affect the outcome of the elections on Tuesday. But I think the ballot harvesting ruling, I think, is going to be of a bigger deal to the Democratic Party. As you know, the Democratic Party is very good at this practice, and the Republicans not so much.
Well, I wonder, though, if this will just serve to confuse voters, because we've been telling people, we in the media, the parties, have been telling people since August, really since the bill was signed into law back in May or whenever it was, that you cannot give your ballot to someone else. That is a crime, and there's a penalty, a pretty severe penalty on that. So I don't know if this will confuse voters, but I do see a big beneficiary is the group that's out to oppose Sheriff Arpaio. They were ready to rock and roll. They've gotten messages out saying, if you want someone to come here, just text to text this to this number, and we'll get somebody out to pick up your ballot. They've already advertised that. They're collecting ballots. But I do wonder, I don't know where you can turn them in until Monday.
Right, and you're probably right. There's probably some confusion about it. And in fact, one of those groups that are out there getting the votes out have gotten a memo from their lawyers explaining what this opinion or this ruling by the Ninth Circuit en banc court and saying it is okay for you right now to go start collecting those ballots.
Next up is what, Saturday? No, tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, the Justice Kennedy, who's the duty justice for the Ninth Circuit, has the petition for the state before him. And the state is saying, look, this is too late. You're upsetting an election that's already been underway for 3 weeks now, really, with early ballots. And just leave it alone. Now, the Democrats who challenge it have until 9 a.m. tomorrow, presumably Washington time, to turn in their response. Kennedy will then get the first crack at it. He will decide, is it worth reviewing? Now, you can still then have potentially put it to the whole court. You need at least 4 justices out of 8 now,
right,
not out of 9, to take a look at it and decide if they want to do anything with it. This is going to be really fascinating weekend.
And that's not it for court rulings, as Luigi alluded to, that affect the elections. So we are waiting, as we're talking here now, we're waiting for a judge to rule on a hearing that he held yesterday, went on for 4 hours, where the Democrats are alleging that there are voter intimidation tactics afoot from the Trump campaign, from the state Republican Party, and from a web site called Stop the Steal, which is being run by STEAL, which is being run by a Trump ally. They heard arguments, and a federal district judge is expected to rule probably before today's over.
And rule on what?
Whether to grant an injunction to block these GOP groups from voter intimidation.
But the voter intimidation,
that's the problem.
What is the voter intimidation?
That's the problem. Judge Tucci, Mary Jo and I were in the court yesterday, and the judge kept saying, well, wait a second, isn't standing around outside that 75-foot protected perimeter legal? Yeah. Isn't taking pictures outside that legal? Yeah. Isn't even having a gun outside that legal? Yeah. So exactly what do you want me to enjoin? First of all, you've got the question of, do you enjoin the party? Well, the party itself may or may not be doing anything. Then you've got the question of all of Trump's exhortations to voters saying, look, something's going to happen. You need to watch. Now, he was very careful. He never defined what watch means. He didn't say go out and get in people's faces.
Well, but
so
what are you going to watch and see from 75 feet away?
And really, that's the question, right? In fact, the party's lawyer was saying, look, we don't condone intimidating voters. No one would, but we can't control everybody that is somehow loosely connected to the party from doing whatever it is that they want to do. And how do you police those?
And that becomes the issue. At one point, the judge said, so do I try to order Donald Trump to make a statement to his supporters, don't do this? He said, and the response was,
that helped.
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
help.
And of course, the response from the attorney for the party was, excuse me, I don't think you have the right to compel speech like that, Your Honor.
And in the meantime, the Secretary's office had put out some sort of a guideline or a policy detailing, among other things, what would be considered, intimidation or somewhat intimidation, and making sure, policies and guidelines for what is legal or not, or what's considered, an acceptable practice in the polling centers on Tuesday.
Okay, so what's the next step for this one?
Judge will rule, and I don't know. I guess it depends on which way he rules. If you want to take something up quickly to the Ninth Circuit. But wait, there's still more. Then we have the ruling that's been hanging out there about what happens if I'm a voter and I cast a provisional ballot, but I'm not in my home precinct.
And this is another one of these where the 3-judge panel ruled one way and the full panel, the court said, no, wait a second, let's go the other way.
The 3-judge panel said, no, you've got to cast this provisional in the precinct in which you live if you want your ballot to count. But then they said, well, we're going to have an en banc, a fuller court review, but that isn't going to happen before the election.
Yeah, and then there's one more, since we're going down this path.
All right.
There's a fourth issue. The deadline to register to vote was October 10th. Columbus Day, state holiday, federal holiday. Certain offices were closed. Certainly state offices was closed. MVD was closed. You couldn't postmark something, although 14 of the 15 counties were in fact open. The Democrats say, look, we had over 2,000 people who registered on the 11th based on an Arizona law that says if a deadline falls on a holiday, the deadline moves to the next day. And so we're trying to figure out what does that mean? And you've got the question there where the judge basically said, no, the trial judge said, we can't do that. We're gonna leave things the way they are. Maybe an emergency appeal to the Ninth Circuit, who knows?
All right. This, again, is all because of what's happening Tuesday. There's an election going on, Luigi, in case you were aware of this, yes. And we have had everyone and their brother, sister, mother, and father here in town campaigning, including presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, who spoke in front of what looked like 10, 12,000 people there at those fields at ASU.
Right. It is what's really interesting is that the polls are showing within the last 2 weeks that Trump is pulling away comfortably ahead in the state of Arizona. Before, it had been pretty close. The contest, the polls are showing that the state had been somewhat close. But the campaigns themselves are acting as if this state is truly a battleground state. Now, Hillary Clinton, as you mentioned, had been here. Michelle Obama had been here. Bernie Sanders is coming to the state. Tim Kaine was here and gave a speech entirely in Spanish. And so her campaign is looking at Arizona and thinking that it is flippable. That's the way they are acting. And the Donald Trump campaign is doing the same thing. Well, he's been here a couple times. His surrogates have also been here a couple times.
Well, it's not so much flippable. You're not going to convince anyone. Look, people who are for Trump are for Trump. People who are for Hillary are for Hillary. There's not. If you haven't figured out which of these two people you're voting for by now, you probably should go out and have a drink and stay home. The issue is get out the vote. The issue is getting a fire into people, particularly if you cannot hand your ballot to somebody on Tuesday to take to the polls. Then you've got to get them to the polls. You've got to get them there. And this fires up people. You bring out people like Gabby Giffords,
who was there for the Clinton rally.
Who was there for the Clinton rally. And she is a hero in the party. She is nationally known. And that helps fire up people, and that's the key.
Early voting, Latino early voting, 13%. That's up 2% from what it was 4 years ago. That's the biggest surge in the country as far as early voting is concerned with Hispanics. Is that I keep hearing that that's the biggest reason why Democrats are really pushing this hard this late. They're looking at millennials and they're looking at the Hispanics.
I think that's correct. There have been very aggressive voter registration drives for Latinos. With today's developments on ballot collection, those people who didn't mail in their ballot, might have a way to get their ballot yet to the polls, even if they're too busy to walk it in themselves. But yes, it's this Latino surge that we keep hearing about, and I think that what this shows is that it's a habit that you develop over time. It's not a big wave. It's little drops piling up on the seashore.
In fact, the Hillary Clinton campaign this morning held a conference call with reporters from states that are battleground states. That include the state of Arizona, and they said their strategy all along is to build a firewall. And what they mean by that is that get the early vote out. Get those voters, get those ballots turned in, and build up a lead so that it becomes insurmountable by the time of Election Day. And they are targeting Latinos, Asian Americans, the millennials, and suburban women.
And Tim Kaine was here, and he the entire address was in Spanish. Does that make a difference?
Es importante because there are people, if you're speaking the language, it's like going into Philadelphia and eating a cheesesteak. It's like going to Chicago and eating a hot dog. It's associated with people. It's also telling Latinos who have been told, like the blacks have by Trump, well, what do you got to lose? The Democrats always assume that you're going to be with them. I understand. I speak your language, literally. And that's an important message.
We should also mention that Mike Pence was here in town as well, campaigning for the Donald Trump side.
Right.
I mean, we keep talking about how many Democrats are showing up because it's so unusual. A lot of Republicans are showing up too.
Yeah, they had about 750 people out to Mesa on Wednesday morning. Governor Ducey made a somewhat rare appearance.
Was that surprising at all, or what do you think?
No, not for Pence. I mean, those two, know each other from governor circles, and I suspect from, before Ducey was elected governor. And they're more of a kind. They're more of a mind with each other. So Ducey was very happy to stand up and introduce, his buddy and tout Mike Pence's accomplishments. I think at the Ducey came to one Trump rally and I don't think he didn't introduce Trump. He didn't have a starring role in it. But this was a big appearance for the governor.
And of course, you've got to remember the location. One of Trump's soft spots in the Republican Party is the LDS Church, and having that out in Mesa.
Mesa Convention Center, yes.
Yes, is designed to counteract the fact that there are many Republicans who, while they may not vote for Hillary, are having a real problem voting for Trump.
Okay, you mentioned earlier that we're getting polling coming in, and it seems like Trump is pulling away a bit. I know that we had a CNN ORC poll had Trump up by 5 points earlier in the week. What's happened since then?
Right, and there has been a Data Orbital poll. Data Orbital is a local polling firm here, and they've been tracking the votes for the last several weeks. And today they came out with their latest poll showing that Trump is ahead by 8 points, well outside the poll's margin of error. However, my question has always been, like, to what extent are you capturing the people who have already voted, those who have already turned in their ballots? Because to me, that's very important. If you're capturing the people that are saying, I'm probably voting on Tuesday, vis-a-vis the people who have already turned in their ballots, then you might have two different sets of data if you're polling two different sets of people. And the head of the firm, George Kalab, said that he's actually going to do a poll of the people who've already turned in their ballots.
All right, as far as early voting patterns are concerned, we mentioned that the Latino vote was up to 13% total. That's a couple percentage points higher than in 2012. It's interesting because voter registration is up like 188,000 since August, and Republicans still have that lead over independents and a sizable lead over Democrats.
Right. As in the aggregate, they have.
Yes.
They are the largest party. But when you look at it both in percentage and the number of voters registered in that 2-month period since the primary, Democrats are ahead. That's where that's reflected.
And
they pick up more people.
And yet that surge is still below the surge that we saw back in 2008. So it's there. Is it enough, Howie, for Democrats to have all these highfalutin feelings?
Well, as we, every 2 years we sit around the table, we say, the Latino community keeps saying, today we register, tomorrow we vote. Well, okay, we've got half of the problem solved in terms of registering. Does that translate to votes? Are they turning in their early ballots? Are they mailing them? Will they show up on Tuesday? I don't know if it's enough. This is an election that we've never seen in terms of folks on the presidential race, certainly on the sheriff's race and the rest of them. So I can't look back on the last 47 years I've been in journalism and say, oh, based on this, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention that, early voting, that's where we saw here in Maricopa County at the early voting in-person locations, waits. Oh my gosh, here we are. We're back again.
I know.
They were, in some places it was lines, in other places it was people nicely seated inside and waiting to vote. And why is that happening? Well, you had 25 locations. Some of them were understaffed. They only had like one printer. Basically, the early voting sites were just like the voting centers that we had in Maricopa County back in March. But all these people have been hearing, vote early. Vote early, vote early. So they go vote early and they wind up waiting.
And Luigi, right now, as far as early ballots that have been returned, a Republican Party with 6% more than Democrats. It was 10% more for Republican Party back in 2012. And yet, it looks as though the Republican advantage has stayed steadier than it was. It's just so hard to, it looks like Republicans have their traditional edge in a variety of ways, and yet you still don't know.
Right, and really, you're absolutely right about that. It's really hard to predict how this thing is going to break out. What we know is that you're right. In fact, initially, the Democrats were doing so much better, performing so much better than the Republicans in the initial early ballot not count, but performance. And then the Republicans started catching up, and right now they are ahead. However, the strategists and the pollsters, they all have concluded that Democrats are probably going to perform a lot better, maybe but not so much, but better than they performed in 2012, and that is key.
There's one other point, and when we're sitting around here, maybe election night, it's going to be important. We need to look at the undervote. We need to look at how many people skipped that presidential race and then voted the next race down, the statewide race, the McCain versus Kirkpatrick, because it isn't going to matter for the state's electoral votes if the Republicans get a bunch of people out who say, I can't vote for either of these people. And that's going to be a big difference.
And in fact, one of the problems of polling this year is that how do you capture those people who haven't voted before, the new voters, those who decide that this election is so important they're going to vote? How do you capture those? That's been a problem that's nagged pollsters, since the primaries.
Mayor Phoenix files papers to run for Secretary of State.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, he filed the papers.
He filed the papers.
But we don't know if he's going to run or not because of the Let's Get Greg Stanton law, correct?
Well, this is an interesting law. In essence, up until now, you could transfer money from any city campaign to any state campaign to a city campaign, county campaign. The only thing you couldn't do is federal versus state and local. All of a sudden, we've got this new law that says if you have money in a city account, who would have money in a city account?
Like maybe $500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah.
You cannot move it into a state account. That law takes effect tomorrow, Saturday. So Greg, being no dummy and not wanting to burn $500,000, forms essentially a committee to say, I'm going to run for Secretary of State. Now he says, I haven't made up my mind. I don't know if I'm going to take on Michelle. Maybe I'll run for governor or something else. But at least now the money is transferred. Now he can do whatever he wants.
And he is termed out at 2020. I mean, he has to be gone by 2020. And he does have some political future. But what's the scuttlebutt? What kind of political future does Stanton have?
Well, he's frankly, in a way, the top-ranking Democrat in the state, at least, currently is in elected office. And, I don't think it's any accident that he looked at the Secretary of State's race to open his campaign, because I think Michelle Reagan is viewed by many as probably most vulnerable, maybe on a par vulnerable with Diane Douglas. It's just Reagan's gotten a lot more attention recently because of this is our fourth election this year, so all eyes turn to the Secretary of State during election time.
And we'll see if he stays with that Secretary of State bid.
And that's the thing. People are going to be looking for errors. It's like we were talking earlier about the problems at the Maricopa County's centralized polling locations. I got news for you. At that, with photos like that, Helen Purcell can just put a fork in it at this point. That kind of publicity, it kills somebody. Even if they're going in the polling place, they're not sure how they want to vote. I've just stood in line an hour and a half because of something that Helen did. Guess what?
And just going back to Greg Stanton, there is some belief that he, in fact, is going to run against Michelle Reagan, because if he truly just wanted to make sure that he can transfer money from one state committee to another state committee, there is an office that's going to open up. Jeff DeWitt, the state treasurer, said he's not going to run for re-election, and so presumably that office is wide open, and Stanton could file a committee for that office and just transfer money if he wants to whichever office he decides later on to run for.
That traditional stepping stone to the governor's office, the treasurer's office. Hey, we've only got like a minute and a half here. I'm sorry that we kind of got bogged down in some of the other stuff. But the DES director, exciting times for Tim Jeffries at DES. I mean, he's created a do not hire list, apparently. He's accusing folks of bullying. What's going on here?
Well, one of my colleagues at the Republic, Craig Harris, did a review of how many state jobs have been lost, how many people have been fired since the Ducey administration started. And the majority of them have been at the Department of Economic Security, where Jeffries came in March of 2015, and just started exiting people, I think is his term, or terminating them.
Firing bullies is I think how he puts it.
Yeah.
And the problem is that a lot of these people who were fired supposedly for incompetence, as the Republic very nicely pointed out, were people who had gotten commendations, gotten raises, and everything else.
Merit bonuses, the whole 9 yards.
And that's key. Tim is a little tone deaf. I mean, I did an interview with him after he had sent out messages to the employees saying, hey, I'm going to Lourdes, so I take your messages of prayer. And I went up to his office and I said, Tim, you have a cross on the wall of your state office. Do you think anybody might find that intimidating? Oh, no, this is, I treat everybody nicely.
30 seconds. Can the governor afford to keep him around?
That really is a good question. I mean, I guess we'll find out around Thanksgiving, maybe December 25th.
You think? When no one's watching, you think he might find a better position somewhere else?
There is some feeling at the state capitol that he may be on the way out. However, the governor is very loyal to his cabinet members.
I don't think the governor's going to exit him. He may exit himself.
Yes. All right, and with that, we'll thank you all for joining us. Monday on Arizona Horizon, world-renowned physicist Lawrence Krauss joins us in studio to discuss the latest science news And we'll hear about a new report that shows a high rate of suicides among senior citizens. That's Monday on Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, a look at the psychological factors behind why people vote. Join us later on Tuesday for election coverage on Arizona PBS World. Wednesday, we'll have a day after analysis of the election. Thursday, a one-on-one interview with renowned Phoenix architect Will Bruder. And Friday, No Journalist Roundtable will have a Horizon Veterans Day special. One more programming note, special show commemorating the 100th anniversary of the birth of Walter Cronkite. That airs tonight at 8 on Arizona PBS World and again on Sunday at 6 on Arizona PBS. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.